Okay, okay, tough. So we are on Daf Amud Bet, continuing dealing with the Beitzah and the Afrach. We're going to get to a new topic soon, but continuing on. Yesterday we've been discussing Beitzah until now, and then we started discussing the Afrach, right? Afrach Shnolad B'Yom Tov. So we saw that there was a machloket between Rav and Shmuel, or possibly between Rav and Rabbi Yochanan, in terms of whether that would be muktzah or not. We saw the comparison between that and the egel shenolad b'yom tov, why that may be similar, why that may be different, etc. And then we came to this statement. We had a Beitzah, and we concluded with the statement that Amar Rav Huna Amar Rav. So if you look, we're on Daf Amud Bet, I'd say about 6 lines from the bottom of the narrow lines. Amar Rav Huna Amar Rav, Beitzah im yetziata nigmara. Okay, that was the statement of Rav. Somewhat cryptic. It says that a beitzah im yetziata nigmara, when it comes out, when it is laid, when it is it comes out of the chicken, that is when the egg is complete. The question is, what exactly does it mean complete? What is the nafkamina of calling the egg complete? It could mean that it's ready in terms of hachanat deraba. It could mean that it's ready in terms of it's no longer part of the chicken and that it's an independent entity and it's parav. Okay, so Rashi over here says, Rashi is near the top of the Amud. He says, Im yetziata nigmara, ksheyatza nigmara briata. When the egg comes out, that's when we say that it's complete, so that's when it's been fully formed. Aval mikame hachi, before that, lo chashiva beitzah gmura, the egg is not considered completed, not considered fully formed. The Gemara is going to explain. It's going to go on and explain to us what exactly this means and what is going to be the nafkamina. Just to understand a little bit, the way the egg forms inside the chicken, so it goes through different stages. If you think about an egg that we have, so you have the yolk inside, you have the albumin outside, there's a bit of a layer out on top of that, there's a shell. That is the way the egg is formed. It begins just the yolk, that's what is there of the egg, and as it goes through the body of the chicken, different layers are added on the outside, different layers are formed. The whole process takes about 24 hours, I believe, according to some of the research I did yesterday. So, and then a new egg starts forming as well. So the Gemara says like this. So what does it mean when you say what are we referring to? So maybe you'll say that it's finished, meaning that it's now complete. You can now eat it with milk. It's now parav. Again, as the egg goes through the stages inside the chicken's body, when it's still caught up and it's connected to the flesh. So at that point, it still would be meaty, would still be considered part of the chicken. This is, by the way, also I mentioned the other day how relevant these sugyas are to the whole sugya of lab-grown meat. One of the questions that people discuss is when you have a cell, let's say if it starts off as parav, so there are those who want to argue it starts off as parav, it has to remain parav. Or if it starts off as meaty, it has to remain meaty. Where do you find that something starts off as parav, becomes meaty, or vice versa? So the answer is, yeah, you find it. At first, it's part of the body of the chicken, that's meaty. Afterwards, it becomes parav. Afterwards, the chick that comes out will be meaty again. Okay, it's chicken, so it's meat midrabanan. But nonetheless, it does change status. So maybe we say, that means that it's now finished, it's now complete as an independent entity, the egg, in the sense that it can be eaten with chalav, that it is now parav. However, what's the problem with that? The problem is we make an inference then. We say, if you say that it's only with yetziata, when it comes out, it can now be eaten with milk. So that means when it's still inside the body of the chicken, then you would say asura lo ochla b'chalav. You would have to say that it's forbidden to eat with milk. V'atanya, but we have a Beitzah which teaches us explicitly. We've seen this already. Hashochetet atanagolet umatzah ba beitzim gmurot mutarot lo ochlan b'chalav. We have a concept where somebody could check the chicken, and inside there were eggs which were complete, and those could be eaten with chalav, those could be eaten with milk. Let's just see Rashi a moment. Rashi says, Lochla b'chalav, right, this is the hava amina, dehashta hava beitzah v'lo basar, that what it means that it's complete, that now it is an egg and it is no longer meat, it's no longer flesh. But the implication would be that that which is still found inside the body of the chicken is not yet considered an egg in that sense. And you would not be able to eat it with milk. And then he says Beitzim Gemurot, right? The question is, the Gemara just said that when you if you find eggs which are complete inside the chicken, those can be eaten with milk. Those are considered eggs and not flesh. The question still is, what is Beitzim Gemurot? Beitzim Gemurot inside the chicken. This is actually a big point of dispute amongst the Rishonim. Rashi says that Beitzim Gemurot in this case, afilu belo klipa levana, el asher chelmon levado gamur, ve'af al pi shemalei adayin begidim shalya. So he holds, we're going to see a bit more discussion on this later on. Rashi says that even without the outer shell, that hasn't formed yet, but it's just the chelmon levado, meaning really just the yolk inside, which is complete. Even though it's connected with sinews, etc. Sharia Rabbi Yaakov Ale. So that's the opinion of Rashi, by the way. Other Rishonim understand differently. Other Rishonim understand that Beitzim Gemurot means that it's fully formed. But yeah, in any event, it doesn't answer what does it mean that it's fully formed when it comes out of the chicken. So back in the Gemara, it says, so he said, Atanya, right, so we're now on the last two words of the narrow lines. Maybe, let's say, what does he mean when he says that when it comes out of the chicken, it is now complete? Maybe that means it's now complete in the sense that you can eat it on Yom Tov. I.e., that it's in terms of our discussion that we had right at the beginning of the Masechet regarding Achanat Rabbi, that we asked when is the egg completed in the sense that it is that it is prepared, that it's designated, that it won't be muktzeh. So maybe you say that only according to this opinion, it's only when it's actually laid. But again, the Gemara now asks the same question. It says, that would mean that if it's still inside the body of the chicken, you could not eat it on Yom Tov. And here we've seen a Beitzah as well. Beitzah says explicitly, if you were to kill a chicken and you found, again, completed eggs inside it on Yom Tov, you could eat those eggs. Again, we said, even according to Achanat Rabbi, that the egg is completed the day before it is born inside the chicken's body. So therefore, those are two hava aminas that we reject. That can't be what Rav is talking about when he says Beitzah im yetziata nigma. So what is he talking about? V'chiteima. Says the Gemara, maybe you'll say like this. V'chiteima kama, that it is regarding Yom Tov. V'chiteima kama shmalan Beitzah maidelo ashminin b'matnitin. Maybe you'll say that the Beitzah is going to teach you something that we haven't learned that we haven't learned from the Mishnah, right? In other words, the problem with that, to say what? To say that the eggs that you'd be allowed to eat it. The Gemara is now going to question that doesn't seem to be, if you say that the Beitzah is adding a din which wasn't taught explicitly in the Mishnah, well, we're going to get into a problem because we're actually going to see that this doesn't fit with any of the opinions that we learned, not with Beit Shammai or with Beit Hillel. And the Gemara immediately explains the problems like this. We say, Anami Tanina Beitzah shnoda b'Yom Tov, Beit Shammai omrim ta'achel, uBeit Hillel omrim lo ta'achel. In other words, our Mishnah taught like this. Here's the Havamina. What we could suggest that maybe the Beitzah is teaching, that what the Beitzah here is teaching us that wasn't learnt in the Mishnah. When Rav said Beitzah mitziatan nigmara, what's he coming to add? He's coming to add the following. Our Mishnah taught us that if you have an egg which was laid on Yom Tov, so Beit Shammai said you can eat it, and Beit Hillel said you can't eat it. And here's the chiddush: Ve'ad kan lo pligei Beit Shammai or Beit Hillel ela benoda. I.e., the machloket between them, between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, was regarding the egg which was laid. Aval b'mei iman divrei kol shari. But maybe if it's the egg which is still inside, if you found the egg inside the chicken, so then everybody would say that's permitted. Meaning even Beit Hillel would agree with that. V'chitema Beit Hillel afilu b'mei iman nami asri v'hai diktani noda lodiach kochan de Beit Shammai. And if you're going to say that Beit Hillel also say actually that, right, Beit Hillel said that if the egg is laid, it's going to be forbidden. That if they'll say that the egg, even before inside b'mei iman, it's also going to be forbidden. So, and the fact that it says in the Mishnah that the egg that was laid is why? Is in order to teach you how far Beit Shammai go. The Beit Shammai say that even if the egg was actually laid, that they would still permit it. So if you're going to learn like this, so now we have the problem that the Beitzah makes no sense. This is the Beitzah that we just quoted, right? We said if you find the eggs inside the chicken, and you can eat them on Yom Tov. What is that Beitzah coming to teach us? What is that Beitzah coming to add? Mani lo Beit Shammai v'lo Beit Hillel. It's not Beit Shammai and it's not Beit Hillel. Why? So Rashi says like this. Rashi says lo Beit Shammai v'lo Beit Hillel. He says lo Beit Shammai demai aliyah b'mei ima afilu noda b'yom tov shaleh. If the Mishnah teaches me that according to Beit Shammai the egg is permitted even once it's been laid, so then I don't need a Beitzah to come and teach me that I don't need a Beitzah to come and teach me that the egg is permitted before it's been laid. Obviously, it's a bigger chiddush to say that the egg which is laid, which is nolad, can be eaten, rather than to say the egg which is found inside the chicken. So that Beitzah is not coming to teach me anything for Beit Shammai. And continues Rashi, v'lo Beit Hillel, dafilu b'mei manasire. And if we're suggesting that Beit Hillel say that it's going to be forbidden when it's inside the chicken, so obviously the Beitzah that says that it's permitted when it's inside the chicken cannot be according to Beit Hillel. In other words, bottom line is that we have to say that the eggs that are inside the chicken are going to be permitted. The eggs inside the chicken are going to be permitted, and therefore it can't be that Rabbi is going to teach us that the egg, once it's laid, that is the only stage when it's going to be permitted on Yom Tov, because the Beitzah says explicitly that it's already permitted on Yom Tov when it's inside the chicken. So we're left with our question, and our question is, when Rav said Beitzah mitziata nigmara, that the egg when it comes out, that's when it's completed. What does that mean? So now the Gemara says. 2 lines from the bottom. It says, Ela im yetziata nigmara umagadelet efrochim. Bimei ima eina magadelet efrochim. In other words, he says like this, Ela im yetziata nigmara magadelet efrochim. It's only when the egg is laid that we now say that a chick could hatch from that egg. That egg is complete and that it has the capacity for a chick to hatch from it. If you get the egg from inside the mother before it's been laid, so that is not yet complete in the sense that that egg will not be able to hatch, and that won't be able to have a chick from it. Obviously, we're only talking about fertilized eggs over here. Most of the eggs that are on the market today, just about all of them, most of the eggs that we have are non-fertilized eggs. But this is which could never grow a chick. But this is a fertilized egg which can grow a chick. Now the question is, l'mainaf kamena. Okay, so you say that we consider it an egg which can megaderet efrochim, which can grow, chicks can hatch from it, only once it's been laid and not when it's taken from inside the body of the chicken. L'mainaf kamena. What difference does that make? The answer is lemekach umemkar. So this is the din for mekach umemkar. If a person goes buying eggs and a person stipulated that they wanted an egg, specifically an egg which can grow a chick from. We'll see in a moment why somebody would want that. then it's only if the egg comes, the egg that's actually been laid. If the person then comes and sells them an egg which has been from inside the chicken, that's not what they asked for. So then we have all questions about a mekach ta'ut. Do they get the money back, etc. So yeah, the Gemara gives an example. It says, like a certain person who came along and said, maybe before that, just see the last Rashi of the page. Rashi says, Megadelet efrochim. He says, Le'inyan din mekach u'memka. This is for the halachot of commerce. Itma. D'im nodan nigmal bishula u'liya lagadam men efrochim. If it was laid, so then the egg, then it's being completed. It's ready and it's fitting and has the capacity to grow chicks from it. Aval nimtzed b'meima. But if it's inside the body of the mother, einam megadelet efrochim, then it can't grow chicks. And somebody came and wanted to buy only eggs which could hatch. If you sold these, then it's going to be a mekach ta'ut, and then the sale is null and void. He gets his money back. So says the Gemara, Ki hauda malo bei defachya. We're over the page now. Bei defachya leman yavulei. So somebody came along and said, I want to buy eggs, but I don't just want eggs on Bei Defachya. I want eggs which come from a chicken which has a fachya. Rashi says, Kmo de paya hanoladim minat hanagolet chaya shepua beleidata. So this is from Sefer Shmot, familiar to us. The midwives are called Shifra and Pua. It's the same word, right? Pua means these chickens that they sort of coo when they give birth. But that is he wants when they lay the eggs. So those are the eggs which a person was asking for. Yahavule, says the Gemara, Yahavule be'ad shchuta. He was given the eggs from a shchuta. In other words, a chicken which was slaughtered, and you got the eggs from inside. So he got the wrong eggs, not the eggs he was looking for. Atalakamed Rabbi Ami. They came before Rabbi Ami. Amalu mekach ta'utu v'hada. So Rabbi Ami said, "This is a mekach ta'ut. You asked for eggs which relate from a living chicken, not eggs which are taken from a dead chicken inside. So it's mekach ta'ut. The money goes back." Says the Gemara Pshita. Says that's obvious. Says Rashi, the mekach ta'utu. He said explicitly, this isn't what he wants. So what would you have thought? Why does it need to teach us that it's a mekach ta'ut? Because you would have thought the following. You would have thought this person wanted eggs in order to eat. And the reason why he said he wants eggs he doesn't want the eggs to hatch into a chick. That's not why he's buying them. But why did he ask for that? Mishum detzrivan. That's like another way of saying that they are ready. They are complete, right? So that's why he asked for them. Nonetheless, right? The question is always when it comes to mekach ta'ut and these sorts of things, a person asks for a specific product. Did he mean for that specific product, or was he using that for a certain quality? Which he wanted. So it didn't necessarily have to be an egg that came from an egg that could hatch, but it had to be an egg that was ready, since he wanted it to eat and he could still achieve that purpose. So you might have thought this is not a complete mekach ta'ut. Nonetheless, Rabbi Ami comes to teach that it is. It says, Mishum Tzrivan, Lemay nafkamina, Lemay tvale, Beini, Kamashmalan. In other words, what is the nafkamina? What would have been the difference? So says Rashi, nafkamina, ben man devailu la'achila, ben man devailu le'afrochim, between one who wants it in order to eat and one who wants it in order to actually wants to hatch for the chickens. So the mitzvah veini, to give him the money that's in between the cost of the two types of eggs. Lachzilo dmei ma'ala, says Rashi, to give him back the difference in the money. Shebein be'ad afachya le'be'ad shchuta. In other words, you would have thought if he still wants the egg, he just wants a better quality egg, but he wants it to eat anyway. So it's not a complete mekach ta'ut. He can still get what he wants. He can still eat he can still make his omelets for breakfast. So therefore, you would have thought he just has to give back the money, just to pay. He paid for grade A eggs, and he got grade B eggs, you can still eat them. So give him back the money between grade A and grade B. That would be enough. That's what you would have thought. Right? Ela, says Rashi, she'elu yafis mehem ve'yachzir lo dmei malyutan. You would have thought you just take the money off and you give him back the money. Kamash malan, continues Rashi on the last of the wide lines at the top. Rabbi Ami de Satam, man de bai be'a defachia le'afochim, bailo ve'ein elu shavin lo klum. No, he wanted those specific types of eggs, and these aren't worth anything to him. In other words, even though he could still eat them, nonetheless, the mekach is bater, and he gets, and the sale is not avoid. He gets all his money back. Okay, continues the Gemara. Another case. How the amalu beid dichla leman beid dichla. Sorry. How damalu be'adadichla laman be'adadichla laman. So a person was going around in the shuk and he was saying, who's got eggs? But dichra means is zachar, which is a male. In other words, fertilized eggs. Where's the eggs from a chicken that have been fertilized? So I want be'adadichla laman, be'adadichla laman. He's going around the shuk and he's shouting out, Yavule be'adasafna me'ala. They gave him eggs which had been warmed in the ground. Essentially, a chicken can lay eggs, as we know. A chicken can lay eggs from a rooster or not, right? Like we say, most of the eggs that we have are unfertilized eggs. Says the Gemara, says Rashi, dedichra sheyeladtan tarnagolet mitarnagol, that a chicken laid these eggs from a rooster. It was not warmed in the ground, the chicken, when it was laying the eggs, but rather came from the male. Or the safna me'ara mitchamemet bakarka v'yoledet beitzim. If it was warmed by the ground and it laid these eggs, so those eggs obviously would not hatch chickens. So the person went along and wanted these be'ad dichra, wanted eggs which could hatch chickens, and they gave him be'ad safna me'ala. So Rabbi Ami, again they came to Rabbi Ami with this case. He said this is a mekach ta'ut. And the money goes back. Pshita. Again, that's obvious. Says the Gemara. Ma'odetema. So again, the same avamina as we said before. You would have thought that he just wanted them for eating. And now which he said, I want eggs from my rooster. Mishum de shaminan tveis, because they're bigger eggs, they're better quality. So again, l'maynaf kamina la mitzvah le beini or beini. You might have thought you just have to give for the money. That's the difference. Kamash malan comes to teach you that it is not the case. Okay, so that is one answer. Again, we started off. Let's zoom out again. We said we had the statement of Rav that said Beitzah metziata nigmara. We said, what does it mean when it comes out that it's completed? We said Havamina number one, it's only when it comes out that you can eat it with chalav, that it's a Beitzah and not basar. So that doesn't work because we have a Beitzah that says you could eat the Beitzim gmurot inside the body of the chicken, you could eat them with chalav. Again, discussion and the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch go into great details in terms of what is considered a Beitzah gmura, even inside the chicken. But in any event, then we said maybe Beitzah Gemara means that it's only when it's laid that it's prepared as designated for Yom Tov, and that's when you can eat it. We said that can't be the case because the Gemara said, the Beitzah said that if you find a kilo chicken and you find the eggs inside on Yom Tov, you can eat them. So we said no, it's talking about for Mekach or Memka. For Mekach or Memka, for commerce, and the point is that when the egg is laid, only then does it have the capacity to hatch a chick from within. That was one answer. Now says the Gemara, different answer. We're in the first wide line of Zayin Amud Aleph. Ibait Eima. Alternatively, you could say like this: Ma'im Yetziata Nigmara. What does it mean when it comes out that it is complete? Im Yetziat Ruba Nigmara. To teach you that when most of the egg comes out, that it is complete. Again, apparently, it seems to be. I'm not an expert on chickens and eggs, but it seems to be that there's a way where sometimes the chicken's laying the egg, that the egg begins to come out and then it goes back in, and it's only laid later on. So that is what Rav is coming to teach us, and it's Kedivrei Rabbi Yochanan. It's following Rabbi Yochanan. The Rabbi Yochanan. The Rabbi Yochanan. Beitzah she'atzah ruba me'erev Yom Tov v'chazra muteret lochla b'Yom Tov. He says an egg which came out, most of it came out on erev Yom Tov, and then it goes back inside the chicken. You could eat it on. It's no longer muktzah because it's already come out. It's already complete, and would be what you would be allowed to eat it on Yom Tov. So it says Rashi over here, Im yetziat ruba nigmara, ulenyan Yom Tov itma. Im yatzta ruba erev Yom Tov, v'chazar b'toch me'er, that most of it came out on erev Yom Tov, and then it went back inside, v'yiladta b'layla, and then the egg was laid fully that night, on Yom Tov moteret. That would be permitted. That we don't consider it to be an egg which was laid on Yom Tov. We consider an egg which was actually laid on erev Yom Tov. And what Rav was going to teach was that im yetziata nigmara, meaning that even if when it comes out the first time, even though it's not the entire egg, that is then allowed. The ikadamre. Okay, an alternative explanation. There are those who say, Ikadama, ma im yetziata nigmara, im yetziat kula nigmara. Okay, so then there are those who say no, that it's exactly the opposite. That when it comes to teaching that im yetziata nigmara means only when the entire egg comes out. This is the opposite explanation. Im yetziat kula in, avarubalo, that only when the entire egg comes out, but when the majority comes out, then no. Ulapu came with Rabbi Yochanan, and to exclude from the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, to say differently to him. Says Rashi, v'ibait ema, Rav lapu came with Rabbi Yochanan ata. The Rav is coming to argue with Rabbi Yochanan. V'im yetziata dekama, when he says when it comes out, he means im yetziat kula, the entire egg, l'ma'ute yetziat ruba, and not the majority of the egg. So in other words, so we have now two explanations. Well, two explanations for Rav's statement with two different nuances for the second explanation. Explanation number one was when he said im yetziata nigmara, it means that only when the egg is laid, we now say that it's complete in the sense that it has the capacity to hatch and to produce a chick, and that would be in terms of when people ask for a certain type of egg for mekach or memka, that would be the nafkamin. Explanation number two was that we're dealing with a case where the egg is, I suppose, partially laid and then fully laid. So when some of it comes out and then only afterwards the entire egg comes out. When Rav said im yetziata nigmara, what was he? He was dealing with that halacha, and he was either saying im yetziata means when it starts to come out. When it starts to come out, that's enough, and supporting Rabbi Yochanan that therefore when the egg is an egg which is laid on Yom Tov, which had begun to be laid beforehand, would be permitted. Or he is saying im yetziata nigmara, meaning only when it completely comes out. When it completely comes out, that would be by contrast to Rabbi Yochanan, who said that when the majority came out, it's considered laid, and that would be enough. So those are the two. Those are the two ways. So just read the next part briefly, and we'll continue on this next week. Now says the Gemara Gufa. It says we're going to now go into a little bit more detail of a Beitzah, which we brought in passing, but we're going to now discuss a little bit more in terms of the way that the eggs are developed, at what point they're considered eggs and not basar, etc. So it says Gufa, says if you killed a chicken and you found eggs inside, again, betim gmurot, these eggs can be eaten. These eggs can be eaten with chalav. Rabbi Yaakov Omer, im hayu morot begidin asurot. But if they were connected, entangled with the sinews, I was still connected to the flesh of the chicken, then it's going to be forbidden. Then it's not considered beitzim gmurot, and that is still considered basar. Okay, we're going to go a little bit more into the anatomy of eggs. That's where we'll pick it up from next week. Bezrat Hashem. Good day, everybody, and Shabbat Shalom.
Right. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Tzom Kal.